Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Dr. Staten Medsker, author of How to Adjust Yourself and Avoid Seeing a Chiropractor. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm also known as the Rockin' Doc because I'm the hip, the hop, the happening. I'm talking about the flip, the flop, and the crackling. There ain't no doubt I'm on a jam while I bam and lay my loving hands on the next needy band. So leave your questions at the tone, and the Rockin' Doc will throw you back a bone. Peace.
All right, you weren't kidding about being animated. Good stuff. I like it. Well, we're thrilled to have you on the show, and let's go ahead and dig into the questions. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get started.
All right, my friend. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
So I'm probably the worst person to ask these questions to because I kind of cheated when I went through my protocol of writing a book. I found a gal that was creating lasting memoirs. Her company's called Perfect Memoirs out in Nashville, Tennessee. And she would sit down with some of the older folk and she would record them talking about their family histories, and then she would put it back into her computer, hit play, and spit out a nice little printed book for them. Well, her and I met over a period of a few months where she'd come over to my house, and I would actually speak my book. And I went kind of a chronological order of my memoirs of life and was able to print out a pretty huge book, 400 pages long. And that's probably the number one thing that I can recommend is take the time, make the time. I'm a kind of guy that I get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. every single morning. My body just wakes me up and I'm good to go. And I use that peace and that quiet time at night to sit down, edit my book, write more pages to the book, that sort of thing. So I would say the number one thing, take the time, make the time, find the time, get up an hour early before your day starts where it's really quiet. And that's the best way that you can put time and energy towards a big project like tackling a book.
Well, and I love your method with that. That's one of the things that we do with our clients is most of our clients these days, we sit down with them, we interview them, we ask follow-up questions, and then we have everything transcribed, then edited, then we send it back to our clients for approval because it really is a great method in which you're still sharing all your great knowledge, but you're just doing it in more of a relaxed atmosphere, maybe with a cold frosty beverage, where you're just having a good conversation and sharing your story. And it's such a great way to get the book out there because, as you mentioned, you have over 400 pages based on those conversations and additional information that you've added.
Yep.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I think the hardest part is probably shopping for publishers. I kept trying to find different paths and different avenues because I'm a newbie at this. I don't even know the first thing I'm supposed to be doing to get this book on a shelf. And so basically what I started doing is I Googled publishers, and then I started submitting comments and requests and that sort of thing, and just trying to figure out what's the path, what do I have to go, what do I have to do in order to get my book on a shelf. And then the other thing I started doing, I started asking other authors what they did. And that's, you could find them everywhere. I go to a lot of continuing education seminars. So there's usually somebody who's published a book in those. I know when I go to all of the festivals and the city festivals that are out there, there's always some books and CDs that are for sale for some of the authors out there, I just pull them aside and I talk to them specifically. I just start asking them, what did you do? How did you do it? What have you done? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? And just give them the 20 questions and pick their brain. And they're more than willing to open and offer up information to help somebody else who's beginning that path get on the way.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you're planning to use in your book launch that you feel is going to work well.
So I'm going to use name recognition as my big marketing strategy. Now, I've been very, very blessed to be the chiropractor to over 300 famous musicians, famous bands. Everybody from Def Leppard to Weird Al Yankovic to Journey and Foreigner, Scorpions, Eagles. They've all been my patients over the years. And so what I'm doing currently is I'm recording an album, my next CD out, and up to this point, I already have 50 famous name bands that are recording on my album with me. And so I'm using name recognition in that once I put my album together with my book in a package deal and send that out, the album has famous people on there. The book has famous stories of famous people on there from my experiences backstage with these people. And by using name recognition and the coattails of others, I plan on trying to get some momentum when I launch this project out. Plus, putting a CD with a book is not something that's done every single day. And so I think that that's going to give it an extra little push as well.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know, what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Oh, so most people are readers and they end up turning authors after being a reader themselves. I, on the other hand, I have only read, get this, one novel my entire life. And I read Stephen King's Eye of the Dragon on a trip to Turkey one night on a plane. And so I'm not the person to ask. But probably all of the books that I have read are all my research books that I had to read during medical school. And one that particularly stands out to me that's probably become my alma mater is a book by White and Punjabi called Biomechanics of the Spine. And the reason why that's probably been my favorite is because it has all the practical applications of any kind of scenario that's ever been given to me. For example, I would have musicians come up and say, hey, you know, I have to get under this drum kit and I have to do this. I have to climb this light riser and I have to do this. I have to sleep in this van, you know, and go on tour. And what's that going to do to my back? How's it going to affect my body? And it doesn't matter what gets thrown at me. I'm always able to refer back to White and Punjabi to the basic characteristics of the biomechanics of the body, the human frame, and be able to apply that to any given situation that's been thrown at me. However, there was one time when a patient came up to me and they're all, hey, doc, what does bungee jumping do to my spine? Is it going to be bad for me or should I do it? And I'm like, you know, I really don't know how that would affect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to try it myself because I've never been bungee jumping. So I'll be darned, I went out and threw myself off of a bridge and felt the biomechanics of bungee jumping and came back and said, all right, here's the technique for what you do. This is how you do it properly. And go out and have some fun because there ain't nothing wrong with bungee jumping and traction the spine a little bit and getting healthy that way too.
Nice. And I like the fact that you went and tested that yourself too.
Yeah, I got 38 skydives on me as well, so
oh man,
don't put it past me. I'll go try it.
Excellent. And then for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote. Now, I was going to use one from the Bible, which is do unto others But I was at the bank today, and I created a quote myself that just seemed to actually make sense. And it's, people are awesome, except when they're not. So that's my favorite quote of the day. People are awesome, except when they're not. You know, we're all down here just trying to have a great experience in life. And we all have our core issues, our moral compass, if you will. And it's the same for everybody. We all come from the same seed. And so our core issue is we all want to be loved. And we all want to love. We all want compassion in our lives and understanding in our lives. And so, you know, people are awesome in that way, in that their core beliefs are that way, until they've been tainted in some way through poor choices in life, whether those were circumstantial or whether we made those choices on our own. And, you know, I, for one, have been, I'd say, blessed to have been in almost every single major natural disaster that's been known to man. Everything from volcanic eruptions to 7.1 earthquake in San Francisco to the floods of Tennessee to the hurricanes. I've been in all of them. And I've been in situations where I've seen people die around me, and I survived through those. I've been in those situations where I've seen people's hearts change and where they lewd and take advantage of other people in those situations. And I've seen others where they've stepped up and they've had compassion and they've come to the rescue and they help. And so that's my quote of the day is, people are awesome until they are not.
Excellent quote. Well,
we make the choice.
Dr. Staten, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Probably the best way is to Google Rockin' Doc, ROCKNDOC. If you Google just Rockin' Doc, that's going to get you to find me online, either through my Facebook or through my Reverb Nation account for my music and that sort. If you try to Google my name, Dr. Staten, everything that comes up on there is all about Staten Island ferries. And so unless you want to go to Staten Island, stick with Rockin' Doc and you'll go far.
Dr. Staten, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you much for having me, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.